So President-elect Donald Trump is now slamming President Biden's 11th hour commutations of nearly all federal death row inmates. Trump posting on Truth Social that once he's in the White House, he will, quote, direct the Justice Department to vigorously pursue the death penalty to protect American families and children from violent rapists. We will be a nation of law and order again.
Meanwhile, an outpouring of outrage and disbelief from relatives of the victims of those death row inmates set free by Biden. One person whose sister was fatally strangled is now speaking out, telling the New York Post, quote, why does he need to get special treatment? He's just going to risk other people. What justification does Biden have for doing this? I want to have him explain to us, to our faces, why he chose to give them mercy when they didn't give other people mercy. Karl Rove is former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and a Fox News contributor. Karl, the outrage is certainly understandable, and it's worth noting that before Jorge Avila Torres murdered Naval Officer Amanda Snell, he also raped and murdered an 8- and 9-year-old child, 2 girls. You see those girls here. Their names are Laura Hobbs and Crystal Tobias, next to Naval Officer Amanda Snell. Do you think, Karl, that Joe Biden knows the names Laura Hobbs and Crystal Tobias and even knew this?
No, absolutely not. Look, this is a morally bankrupt act by the outgoing president. Think about this. He takes all but 3 of the people who were on death row for federal crimes involving murder, and all but 3, and says, I'm going to commute your sentences. But I'm going to allow the death penalty to be applied in these 3 other high-profile cases where we might know the names of the victims because they include things such as the guy who bombed the Boston Marathon. I mean, why say the death penalty is wrong in those 37 cases and right in the other 3? At least he would be morally morally consistent if he said, I oppose the death penalty, even though it is a law established on the statute books of the United States by an act of Congress signed by the president, a previous president of the United States. I'm going to ignore that law, but at least it would be consistent. I hate the death penalty. Nobody should have to be dealt with in that way. But no, we're going to have some where the death penalty will apply and others where it won't. And you're right. He cannot mention a single victim, I suspect, of a murder that he has now commuted the sentence to life in prison. I mean, this is astonishing. And to do it on the eve of Christmas, think about those families who lost a loved one and how they're going to be dealing with that trauma during what ought to be one of the most beautiful moments of the year.
Well, that's such a...
God bless them, and God question why Joe Biden did this.
That's such a great point on multiple levels, Karl, whether or not you're morally equating one heinous act versus another, but specifically with the timing. You worked in the White House. Was there any reason that it had to be done right before the most sentimental holiday, stabbing just a dagger of grief to these families now reacting? Could it have waited till after the holidays, perhaps in the new year?
Sure, he could have. But look, let's go back to the essential nature of this, which is Joe Biden has made a decision that he was so offensive in his language. He said, I believe in a fair legal system. Well, these men and women were fairly tried and held in a court of law by a jury of their peers to have committed a heinous act and were judged accordingly and granted the death penalty. And he decides this is not a case where, while they were sitting in prison, they did something incredible. They saved the life of a fellow inmate, or they found God and entered a religious order, or, no, they did. There's no attempt to say, well, these people deserve to have their sentence commuted because of things that they've done since the time that they were found guilty. It is a simple act that they were found guilty of a crime so heinous that they were given the death penalty that has drawn the mercy of Joe Biden. Of course, except for the 3 that, for some reason, he's not granting a commutation of their death sentence. This is unbelievably callous and stupid, in my opinion.
Well, and certainly some have suggested that those 3 exceptions were for fear of a negative PR moment, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people are thinking this may be one after, as you so well laid out, the inconsistencies of conscience. Carl Rove, have a Merry Christmas, and thank you for taking time today.
You bet, Jeff. Griff, Merry Christmas to you and yours.
All right, thank you.